AP's global sports correspondent, Rob Harris. Rob, for me personally, the draw looks pretty much balanced. What are the highlights?
Yeah, the fact all the major teams were in pot one meant they couldn't come up against each other, like in the qualifying for the 2018 World Cup when we had Italy and Spain together. That ultimately meant Italy missed out on the World Cup. And they've got a pretty tough draw this time because they've got Switzerland in their group, and Switzerland are the highest ranked of the non-pot one teams. It's a bit complicated, but it's only the top sides that do qualify automatically. The runners-up of the 10 groups then have to go through the playoffs. As for, look at Spain. Well, they've got Sweden in their group, and Sweden are actually the side that denied Italy a place at the 2018 World Cup. And there's also a politically charged element to that Spain group as well, because you've got Spain and you've got Georgia and you've got Greece, who all don't recognise the independence of Kosovo. And Kosovo is in that group. So it'll be interesting to see how those games go down, particularly if you've got fans back in stadiums by the time qualifying does begin in March. Qualifying should be wrapped up in terms of the groups by November. If you look at France, obviously the world champions, well, they've got Finland, and they lost to Finland in a friendly last month. So the French will be hoping to turn things around there in terms of next year when qualifying starts. And England are semi-finalists, so surprisingly in 2018. They've got some familiar faces, teams they've come up against quite often in qualifying, like Poland, and Hungary as well. Hungary just recently got promoted in the Nations League. So not necessarily an easy route, but Gareth Southgate will be hopeful that he'll be able to navigate a path back to a second World Cup.
Rob, you've mentioned that all of these qualifiers need to be wrapped up before November next year. Are they, with the current situation with the pandemic, are there concerns that all these games will still be completed?
One of the big things on FIFA and Qatar side is this move to the winter for the World Cup in 2022. There's so much controversy over the fact the tournament wouldn't be held in June and July as normal, and would be in November and December because of the summer heat in Qatar. But now it could really help FIFA because it gives that breathing space in terms of finishing qualifying in time for the tournament in 2 years' time. And obviously there's so much uncertainty over the fate of the pandemic, but speaking to the Qatari World Cup leadership yesterday, they believe the vaccines and the progress on those vaccines will now actually enable the tournament to be a more normal one, hopefully with packed stadiums as we now count down until 2 years, just under, until the tournament begins.
Rob, lots of football to be played in Europe, including the delayed Euros next year. When will plans for that tournament be finalised?
Yeah, that's the big question as we look forward to now the June and the rescheduled Euros. I think as we get towards March time, there should be a bit more certainty in terms of just what will the tournament look like. Will they still be able to use all 12 cities in 12 countries, or will they have to reduce the hosting plan because it does get logistically complicated, particularly as this pandemic persists, trying to move so many teams and hopefully fans around the continent. And will we be able to have full stadiums by then? Here in England, it's the only major European football nation at the moment that does have fans in some of their league games. Just this past weekend, a few of the Premier League games started to bring 2,000 fans back, but elsewhere on the continent, they're not close to doing so. The other big question is over the workload on players, because once the season's restarted around June last season, and the potential is for football to continue all the way through until the Euros next summer, then straight into the 2021-2022 season, and they will now get a break, it seems, in the summer of 2022, rather than having a World Cup. Then they'll have the 2022 season starting around August, September. And there will be that disruption to the European leagues going into a November World Cup. But the Qatari World Cup leadership certainly hopes actually the players will be fresher rather than the normal situation where players are going to a tournament right at the end of a grueling club season.
AP's global sports correspondent Rob Harris, thank you very much for that.
Good to join you.
All right.